Nicole, it
Yes,
was
sir.
your 10-year wedding anniversary yesterday.
Thank you.
Happy
It was.
anniversary. That's
Thank
wonderful.
you so much. No, I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
And rare nowadays, as you know, a lot of
Sure.
marriages don't last that long.
Yes.
So, I mean, Kim Kardashian,
Seven.
perfect example.
I see. If Kim had read my recent Your Tango article,
Exactly.
she would have never married Chris Humphries.
Never.
Is that who it was? I didn't even know. I didn't even know who it was. Took me. I didn't even learn his name in 72 days. I
You
had
don't
no
need to
idea.
know it. It's
All right.
okay.
Yeah.
So you mentioned your article.
Yes.
Tell the viewers about that. It was basically
Sure.
almost like a quick 10-point how-to.
It was, you know, really assess your relationship or marriage in these 10 categories, and you were well on your way to achieving a 10-year wedding anniversary.
Okay.
But I think, interestingly enough, that people, whether you're dating or in a relationship, you're not reflective to the relationship and figuring out what's right, what's wrong, what feels good. And people have always said to my husband and I, like, you guys are so happy, so in love. Why are you successful? So that certainly has inspired me to write the piece, and achieving 10 years is, I truly say that my marriage is my life's greatest accomplishment. It's not my work, it's not anything else I've done, it's the relationship and marriage that I've built with Rob. And I think that all 10 points in that article really give people insight, okay, like, wow, like, is my relationship good? Does it feel good? Is this something that I want to pursue long term? Is it something I would like to tweak? Should I go into therapy? Do I need marriage counseling? Because marriage shouldn't be hard. It's an effortless joy. It's not burdensome. It's not this big, arduous task. So, why I wrote the piece.
All right. By the way, I have about 18 minutes left to make this show my greatest accomplishment.
All right, let's do
So
it.
I'm working on that. So what are some of the highlights of the 10? What are a couple that you
Sure.
sort of maybe would pick out and,
Attraction.
okay.
Are you attracted to someone emotionally, physically? And the other big part of attraction, too, I say is, I mean, sure, intellectual attraction, but inspiration attraction. Does your partner inspire you? I think that's a huge one.
Huge. Yeah.
Communication. Accountability. I mean, accountability is huge in a relationship, especially a marriage. Rob and I have this, and I wrote it in the piece. We call it the Johnson rule, like the one and done rule. You
That sounds totally different, by the way.
I don't care. No, but that's the truth, and I don't care how fresh. Your mind's dirty.
What? No.
Dirty mind, this one.
No, my mom and dad.
But, well, everyone's watching us right now. But here's the thing, is you say it once and you move on. Women, you know, Sarah will back me up, chicks nag. We nag. Rob has taught me to not nag, because that's just
Okay.
annoying.
Wow.
Guys hear it
He
once or
is
twice, and then,
God.
you know what, men are, they're tuning out after a couple, I mean, who doesn't tune out after a nag? So, Johnson rule, one and done. Accountability is key. Dependability, security. I mean, does your partner make you feel safe? Can you depend on them? Are they consistent? I mean, you ask them to be somewhere or do something, do they consistently deliver? Lifestyles and interests. I mean, you certainly don't have to do everything together. You don't have to be
Right.
on the same bowling team, but it's nice to enjoy the same things. Or, I mean, on the flip side of lifestyle, let's just say someone's a total night owl or has this big party lifestyle, and you don't have that same lifestyle, or you don't have the same cultural ideals or values. That could pose a challenge, so something to certainly look into.
Now, Sarah, I want to ask, are any of these things that she's mentioning, are these things that as people are dating, you can sort of get a sense of, and you know what I mean? Or do you think that it's almost like you can't necessarily know these things until you're either like pretty far along in a relationship? Can you get a feel for these kind of things, or at least like, you know, a little foreshadowing on dates 5, 6, 7? What do you
I think when you go into dating, and one of the things I always talk about with my clients is having those non-negotiables, those values that you hold as being things that are extremely important to you, so that when you're dating, a lot of times attraction and you know, that kind of connection can overshadow the actual more cerebral part of your brain that's saying, oh wait, she doesn't have this, this, and this, and I know I need that, even though, wow, she's really pretty.
Right.
And that's where people kind of spend a lot of time in the wrong relationship. So I think to kind of go in, have that clear, these are the things that have to be there, and of course, you know, connection and common interests and things like that. Finding out what's most important for you and going with that is the way to go.
So the non-negotiables are important, you think, like, because I think some people have those and then they get into a relationship and they want it to work so badly that they sometimes will overlook some things or just dismiss them as all of a sudden being less important when, you know, 5 months ago before they were in the relationship, it was really important. So
Absolutely.
I don't know, you know, I think that happens sometimes, and it's important to kind of keep those things in mind.
Sure.
I
I
guess.
mean, if you can get it all, that's amazing.
Right.
But if you can get even some of the things on this list, I think you're already
Sure.
ahead of the
Right.
Oh,
game.
definitely. The other important part that I wanted to mention, Phil, in that piece was the unconditional love and like. And I think it's just,
Yep.
you know, you have to like the person, like really like them and like being around them, as well as loving them unconditionally. And that should really be without condition. And I made it a point in the piece to say that if you're trying to change someone's core, you're in the wrong relationship.
Yep.
We certainly can change, but like we don't change at our core.
Right.
No.
Now, one thing that kind of came up that I was just thinking about was, you know, as a single guy and single guys watching the show, you know, you've been married for 10 years, there are some things that I think guys are concerned about before getting into a marriage. One being sort of a loss of independence, a loss of their own sense of self, separate from their wives or the wife, and the ability to do things on their own, go out on their own, you know, with the guys every once in a while, or to be able to make a decision without saying, well, I got to check with the wife, or to be able to go out on nights when the wife doesn't necessarily have other plans. You know, like there are a lot of times where, you know, a guy will be like, oh, my wife's has other plans. I'm free Friday night. And it's almost like, well, why can't it work in reverse sometimes? And a lot of guys don't allow themselves to do that, or they don't, you know, is that, I guess, how have you handled the potential loss of independence, just from a single guy's perspective, in your marriage with Rob?
It's a great question, and I was talking to a friend the other day about this, that Rob and I give each other a ton of space. A ton of space. I mean, yet we come together all the time, but Rob does his own thing, I do my own thing, and we're not keeping tabs. I'm not keeping a watchful eye on him. I mean, you and I talked about this, I mean, a couple weeks back. I mean, if Rob wants to go out with the guys, hit bars, strip clubs, whatever, go golfing, go for a golf weekend, like have fun.
Rob, what are you doing tonight? Let's hang out.
You have to have a sense of autonomy in a relationship. Because yes, a relationship is a partnership, but we're still individuals, and you can't lose your individuality to someone else. Like I'm still the same Nicole that I was when I first married Rob 10 years ago.
Right.
But we created a partnership and built a life together, but it's not a possession. Rob's not a possession of mine, and I'm not a possession of Rob. And I want to share Rob with everyone because he's that fantastic.
Right. I want to ask you about keeping friendships with single people, but I'm going to sort of ask Sarah first. Now, Sarah, you're, like we said, you're in your 20s, still a little bit younger. Do you have friends who are married? And if so, have you noticed how they have handled the friendship with you as they've gotten married, and has it changed at all? And they're watching right now.
I don't want to get in trouble. No, I think that there's absolutely a change, especially when you first get married. That first year, I would imagine, as a newlywed, when you're really just like moving into a new house and getting accustomed to being, you know, a we and having all the responsibilities of marriage. I think that it is easier to spend time with other couples and, you know, go on double dates and all of that. But, you know, most of my friends right now are not married.
Right.
So the ones who are, I think, do the best they can. And after the first year, they kind of seem to
settle into
come back, a little stronger.
Nicole, how have you handled that? Have you had any, have you had any issues where maybe a friend has maybe said something to you about it, or I'm kind of putting you on the spot here, but
no, I think Rob and I are in a different situation as a couple, and you know this. I mean, by choice, Rob and I have chosen to not have children, so we're sort of like still the fun party house, and I mean everyone
still look very young because of that.
But everyone still comes over, and we're constantly throwing dinner parties or going out on the town. So I think that I'm probably not the best tenured married person to speak to that. I think if we had 3 kids, I think it could certainly be a different situation. But I find that because we don't have children and we lead a very active lifestyle. I mean, all of our married friends with kids will be like, oh, when can we go out? Like, we're going to get a sitter. Like, can you guys like come out with us? So, but I think that whether you're in a marriage, whether you have children, you should never lose your friends or friendships. I mean, that's not something, I would never give up a previous friendship or a life that I once knew just because I was married. And if you're married to the right person, they'll understand who you are and what your life is.
Right. Definitely, definitely. It can be tricky from what I've seen, but maybe not as tricky as it should be.
Right.
Sure.
You
know, I think it should be a lot easier, but you know, it can be could be an issue sometimes.
I mean, if you're a girl who always does Friday night with her girlfriends and watches trashy TV, once you're married,
Right,
traditions like that can sometimes fall.
Sure.
to the
I mean, you may
wayside.
have to do that once a month
Right.
instead
So
of
Right,
every week and that kind of
exactly.
thing, which is totally fair.
Exactly.
Anyway, check out Nicole's article. It's on yourtango.com. 10 ways to achieve 10-year
A 10-year wedding
or
anniversary.
10-year wedding bliss, marriage bliss.
It's all
of the
blissful,
above. Check that out whenever you get a chance. We're going to take a very short break. We'll be back in a second.